Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, Maison African Motives. Still working on mathematics for N2 level. So we shall have a topic that we shall actually focus on, which is factorization. And as we know that factorization, it covers a lot of a part of main things that we are going to have in our syllabus, which is going to involve finding of the HCF and LCM, simplifying of algebraic fractions. So there is a lot that has to do with factorization. So that's the key topic that you must understand actually for mathematics N2. So we shall work on factorization, working out from the beginning so that we can understand what we are having in this case. So if you're new guys, you can consider subscribing so that you become part of the family, Maison African Motives. So in this case, I have this part that actually you need to know and you need to have for your factorization, which is the factorization golden rule. When you factorize, you must always guys, not just but always, first look for a common factor. So that is what is the golden rule for factorization. Always there is a common factor that is going to be there that you're supposed to take into consideration. All right, so in this case, when you are working with the factorization, these are just sorry for that, these are just polynomials, guys, that we are talking about. Like let's just take an example of this one. We want to factorize 12x squared plus 48. All right, so as we have on this, I don't know if it is going to be clear, but we've got a lot of questions there if we are to cross check on this part here. All right, so these are the questions that we have, a lot of them, and also here a lot of them also on factorization, a lot of questions that we can work with, a lot of questions, a lot that we have under factorization. So we shall see how far we are going to work this up to. So I just gave an example like this one where you're asked to factorize. Okay, these are two terms, so you cross check for the highest common factor, which is the HCF of the given two terms, because we have got 12x and 48. These are the two terms that we have. Here we've got x, but we do not have x, so which means x is not common. So which means we have to find something that is common between these two numbers, 12 and 48. You'll see that there is a great relationship between 48 and 12. Why? Because 12 is actually a factor, the highest common factor, because it can be found in 48. Remember, 12 times 4 gives you 48. 12 times 1 gives you 12. So which means 12 is a factor, it's common in these two numbers, 48 and 12. So that is the one that you're going to factor out like this. So when you factor out, what is the concept there? You are dividing 12x squared divided by 12x. That's 12x squared divided by your highest common factor, which is going to be x squared, plus 48 divided by 12, which is 48 divided by 12, which is going to give you a 3. So you're going to be left with 3. So as you can see, between these two terms, we do not have anything that is common now. So which means we have factorized because we do not have anything that is common. To factorize, you must make sure that there is nothing that is left that is common throughout. Okay, so let's try and apply some questions also. There is this question which is minus 20x minus 60, like this. So cross-checking there, we can see that negative is common, so we can factor out negative. All right, instead of factoring out negative only, guys, let me just redo it here. We can factor out negative 20 is also common, so let's just factor out negative 20 at once. So this is negative 20x divided by negative 20, which is going to be negative and negative cancel, so you're going to be left with x. Minus 60 divide, remember you divide by the number that you factor out, so it's minus 60 divided by minus 20. So from a calculator, you are going to obtain plus 3. So you have factorized. All right, so there are so many questions, guys. Let me just pick something which is a little bit different. Okay, this one on D, which is 10y squared x minus 45y to the exponent of 3. Okay, so we are going to find the highest common factor for the two terms, because we've got two terms. What is common here? Let's start with the numbers. We've got 10 and 45. So 10 and 45, you see that 5 is common. 5 is a factor here. So you can factor out 5. All right. Is y common? Because a common factor should be found between these two numbers. So y is there, also y is there. So how do you take these two? You are going to take the one with the least exponent. So the HCF is the one with the smallest exponent. Whenever you are working with something with exponents, you are going to take the one with the smallest exponent, which is y to the exponent of 2. X is not common. There is no x here, so we can't factor out x. So we have factored 5y squared. So we're going to divide 10 divided by 5, which is 2. Y squared and y squared will cancel each other, which means you're going to be left with x. All right. Minus 45 divided by 5, which is minus 9 from your calculator. Then you've got y to the exponent of 3 divided by y squared, like this. So as you can see, guys, these are 2 here and these are 3. So you're going to be left with 1y in this case, which is minus 9y. So that's how they can ask these questions. Let's just try and do something with maybe 4 terms like what we have on item K there, where we are given 30 x to the exponent of 5 minus 18 x to the exponent of 4 plus 12x to the exponent of 3. So as you can see, this time we have got 3 terms, but do we have anything that is common? 30, 18, 12. Yeah, there's something that is common here, which is 2 or 3. 3 is the highest common, because 3 can be divided here, so you can factor out 3. All right, so this is going to be 3. And we've got x here, x here, x is also common, but we say the highest common factor is the one with the smallest exponent, which is 3. Because this is 4, this is 5, the smallest is 3. So you're going to factor x to the exponent of 3 like that. So it's 3x to the exponent of 3. So let's divide 30 divided by 3, that is 10. X to the exponent of 5 divided by x to the exponent of 3, we are going to have x to the exponent of 2, because it's 5 minus 3, which is 2. Or here there are 5, here there are 3. So if you divide like this, there are 5 here and here there are 3. So definitely you're going to be left with 2, because you have taken 3 out of 5. All right. Minus 18 divided by 3, that is minus 6. So which means this is not our highest common factor, guys. I hope someone saw that. Okay, we'll talk about that. Let's see. X to the exponent of, this is going to be to the exponent of 4. This is going to be to the exponent of 3, which is x. We move on. 12 divided by 3, which is going to give us 4 in this case. That's 12 divided by 3, which is 4. X to the exponent of 3, x to the exponent of 3. This will cancel because they are the same. So you're just going to be left with 4. But this is not the highest common factor, guys, because if you cross-check 10, 6, and 4, 2 is common. So you can take out. So in an exam like you see that you didn't take the highest common factor, then you're going to just take it out here, because you can see that 2 is common. So you're going to factor out 2. You factor out 2. So it's going to be 2 times 3. All right, so 2 times 3, which is going to give us 6x to the exponent of 3. Since we have taken out 2 here, is 10 divided by 2, which is 5x squared. 6 divided by 2, which is minus 3x. 4 divided by 2, which is 2, like this. So this is what you're going to be left with at the end. So it's always wise, guys, to cross-check properly your highest common factor. Okay. Now there is this type of factorization which is important, very, very important, which is by grouping terms. Factorization by grouping terms. Alright, which is by grouping. Where do I apply this type of factorization? Where I have to group terms. Okay, this is the type of factorization which you apply whenever you are given 4 terms, like this part here where we have got 4 terms. If you are to cross check, guys, the terms factorize the following expressions by grouping. But in exam, they do not tell you that you are supposed to use by grouping. They just say factorize. You're just given the question as factorize. Alright, so I'm going to show you how you work out these questions, guys, by grouping. Okay, let's start with first question so that we can have an understanding from that one. And we move on to another one and another one and so forth. This is what we have, or what we are given here. Alright. From this question that we are given by grouping, when you are given 4 terms like this, you cross-check that is there anything that is common for the 2 terms, for the first 2 terms that you're given. If there is nothing that is common, then you have to group your terms so that you can find something which is common. Like in this case, the grouping part cannot be seen properly. Why? Because I can choose to just group as they are into 2 like this, because here 3 is common, here C is common. So still by grouping can work, because it's all about grouping into 2, where now we can factor out what is common between 3 and 9. So you factorize 2 separately. Factorize the 2 separately. That is, you have grouped into 2. So this part you're going to factorize it separately, this part separately. Okay, so let's factorize, guys. We say 3 is common here, so you're going to factor out 3. 3n divided by 3, that's 3 divided by 3, you're going to be left with n. Alright, 9m divided by 3, that's 9 divided by 3, which is 3, but there is m, so it's going to be n plus 3m. Alright, now we have to factorize for these 2 terms, but whatever that you're supposed to factor out here, it must create a common bracket, just like what we have in the first bracket. So what are we going to factor out so that the bracket is going to be directly the same as this one? Okay, let's cross check. C is common, so you can factor out plus C. Factor out the number or the letter with its sign. You take out the sign that is on that term or on that number. Okay, so if we factor out plus C, we are going to be left with plus Cn divided by plus C, which is C and C can cancel, which means you're going to be left with n. Alright, 3cm divided by C, as you can see and C here will cancel, so you're going to be left with 3m, which is plus 3m, which is the condition that we want of having a common bracket, this one, which is common for the 2 terms. Alright, now having this common bracket, what are you going to do? You are going to factor out or to factorize the common bracket. Always that is going to be the case. So if we factor out this bracket, let's take this bracket, because to factor out is to take out. Like what we say 3 is common, we take what is common. So this bracket is common, so you factor it out. So if you factor out n plus 3m like this, this is the common bracket. What is going to remain? If we divide this bracket and this bracket, you're going to be left with 3. So you open a bracket for 3. This bracket and this bracket cancel, you're going to be left with C. So you're going to remain with plus C like this. So this is what you're going to have at the end. So at the end, you are going to have 2 brackets. When you are factorizing by grouping, your answer is going to have 2 brackets depending with the type of question that you are given for that moment. Okay, so let's just try and work some questions, guys, and see how they ask these questions. Another one we are given. All right, this is on number 3, where we are given now. That is 30x squared m minus 30xm minus 7yx minus 7y, like this. All right. So by grouping, guys, we are just going to divide into 2, provided that there's something that is common. So as you can see here, we've got common terms, we have got common terms, so you can actually group into 2. All right, so what is common for the first 2 terms? Remember, we're going to factorize them separately. So 30 and 30 here is common, so you can factor out 30, x squared and x. Remember, we take the one with the smallest exponent, which is x. We have got m and m, so we're going to factor out also m. So 30xm is a common factor. Now we're going to remain with what? We divide 30 divided by 30, they cancel. X squared divided by x, which is x. M divided by m cancels each other because they are the same. And as you can see, we're going to be left with minus 30xm. This is 30xm, so these two definitely they will cancel, which means you're going to be left with minus 1, like that. All right, now having minus 1, and on the other part here we are having 7x, because this is now minus 7x minus. I want you to see this part that we are having from this part. Take note, guys, from the question that you are having, this is not going to give you the exact thing that we need. So this was supposed to be a plus there, this one. So I want you to correct this part here. It's supposed to be a plus, like this. All right, now it can make sense. Yeah, so you just mind some of the questions, the way they are presented and so forth. So this one is supposed to be a plus there. All right, so what is common now? We've got 7, y and y, so we're going to factor out plus 7y, like this. So that if you factor out 7y, you're going to be left with 7y divided by 7y. So as you can see, these two are the same. You're going to be left with x minus 7y plus 7y. This is minus and a plus, which is going to give us a minus. 7y and 7y are the same, so you're going to obtain minus 1. Take note, guys, the condition is always that these two brackets should be common. Should be common. That's the condition that you can apply. So that one, you have to correct this part to a plus there. So once these two are common, you factor out that common bracket, which is x minus 1, like this. So what are you going to remain with if you factor out x minus 1? You're going to be left with this part. If you divide this, you're going to be left with 30xm. What about this part? Plus 7y, like this. All right, so now it makes a lot of sense. So that is how they can ask these questions. So as you can see, there are so many typical questions, but this one is very, very important. I want you to see something on number 12 there, where we are given something like minus 7a minus 28a squared minus 1 minus 4a, like this. This is what you are given. So still they are testing you guys on your techniques of factorization there. All right, let's just do the same by grouping. We are going to group into 2. So like this, into 2. All right. Minus is common. That is supposed to be when it is a minus, it must be common throughout, so that it can be a positive at the end. So minus and minus, that is a minus, which is common. So let me write like this. So we are going to have minus 7. All right, let's check here. We've got a and a squared. So remember, we take the smallest exponent with the one with smallest exponent, which is minus 7a. So that is your highest common factor. That is the common factor for these two terms. Now let's divide minus 7a divided by minus 7a. As you can see, these two are the same. So minus and minus, that's a plus. We're going to be left with 1. Minus 28 divided by minus is going to be a plus. 28 divided by 7, that is 4. a squared divided by a, which is going to give you a. So you divide each term by this term here. All right. So this bracket is giving us 1 plus 4a. And whatever that you're going to factorize here should give us the same bracket with a plus. So what can we do so that this is going to give us a plus? We are going to factor out a negative, which is common. So you factor out -1 like this. All right. So -1 is common in these two. So we are going to be left with 1 plus 4a, which is common. All right. So this bracket are the same. So you're going to be left with 1 plus 4a, which is a common bracket, and we've got -7a minus 1, which is -7a minus 1. All right, someone might wonder why there's a negative and a negative. We can actually factor out the negative, which is common, and is going to affect the whole bracket, which is, if I factor out this negative, is going to be minus like this. Okay, this part is not affected, so it's just going to remain as it is. But I factored out this negative on this bracket, so this is going to be negative divided by negative, which is a positive 7a. -1 divided by negative, which is a plus 1. So this can be my final answer at the end. So it can be 1 plus 7a, it can be 7a plus 1. It's one and the same thing. So as you can see, that's how they actually ask these typical questions. You just need to work on much questions so that you can actually understand the concept there of these typical questions. And sometimes they can even give you something that is already in a factorized manner, like on number 13. So we shall have another class where we shall be working now with difference of two squares and factorizing of quadratic expressions, so that we can actually understand. But these are the basics of factorization. These are the basics of factorization, guys. Okay, this one is plus 2s. All right, like this. On number 13, that was the question, and the question there is still to factorize. All right. If you were to cross-check, the idea that we had was to factor out a common factor for the two terms which are common. And cross-checking on this question, you see that on this side, they already factorized for us. They've already done the factorization for us. So us is to focus on these two terms here. What is common here? That is our focus now. All right. So a negative and a negative is common. We have got 20 here and 40 here. So which means -20 is common. Yeah, -20 is common there. So let's factor out -20 because p is not common. We do not have p here. We do not have s here. So it's only -20 there because negative is there. It's found between the two. So if you factor out -20 like this, you're going to remain with -20 p divided by -20. So -20 and -20 will cancel, which means you're going to be left with p. All right. -40 and -20, it's negative and negative will cancel. 40 divided by 20 from your calculator, this is 2. 40 divided by 20, that is 2, and there is s there like this. And already we said on this part, they already factorized for us. So there is nothing that I'm going to do but just rewrite as it is. It's already in a factorized manner. So what's the question now? If this is the concept, remember when these two brackets are the same, I'm just going to factor out the common bracket, which is in this case p plus 2s. So we've got p plus 2s, which is common, this one. And you're going to remain with -20 plus x. This is what you're going to remain with, just like the previous case. Because once you take this bracket, you're going to remain with -20 plus x. But someone can rewrite this as -20 plus x, just like -1 plus 2. 2 minus 1 is 1 and the same thing. So you can write this as x minus 20 like this. It one and the same thing, just avoiding to start with a negative where there is a possibility for you to start your question with a positive. You can start with a positive, but on a condition maybe that all of the terms, it can be possible, you just need to leave it like that. But in this case, it's possible that you can just rearrange there. So that's how, guys, they work out these questions. So like I said, we shall meet again, guys, working on these typical questions of factorization, so we can try as many questions as possible on this exercise here, which is this is the major important exercise that I want us to work on, which is on this factorization, these ones, so that when we meet again, we shall now be working on the difference of two squares and working with quadratic expressions. But this part, that is the foundation of factorization that we have here. This is the foundation. So I need us to work as much questions as possible from this exercise. So as you can cross-check, maybe someone can ask about this question 8 here. Let's just see it, because it seems like there's something there. It's something like this. Let me show you, guys. It's something like this: x plus 1 into x minus 3 minus m into x plus 1. This is what we have there. All right, if you are to cross-check there, you are going to see that there is a bracket which is actually common here. Yes, because guys, we don't need to expand these brackets. Why do we need to? They have already done the factorization for you. Don't expand anything there. All right, so what are you going to do? This bracket is already common. That's the golden rule. Look for something that is common. So what is common? It's x plus 1. So let's factor out x plus 1. All right. If we factor out x plus 1, we are going to remain with, we have taken out, so we're going to divide x plus 1 and this cancels. We are going to remain with x minus 3. All right. You factor out x plus 1 here, you're going to remain with minus m. This is what you're going to remain with. So is there anything that is common that I can do? There is nothing. I already have my final answer there. So they did a factorization already for us. So that's what they can do, which is the same thing that they wanted you to do there on number 7. Already a plus b is common. You can factor out a plus b, which is the same thing on number 9. 3x 2x plus 3 is already common, so you can apply the same concept just like what I have done for this question. It's one and the same thing. So that's it, guys, from Mason African Motives, working on mathematics for N2 level. Till we meet again.